Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 184, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, Plurk, and Instagram. Today is Monday, December 28th. We are in the midst of the holiday week here between Christmas and New Year's. And this will be my last podcast for 2015. So we're going to wrap it up today. I don't know. Here's one of my Christmas gifts my son got me. It says, a morning without coffee is like sleep. Yes, this is true. So anyway, welcome. Thanks for being here. If you are new, I appreciate you checking me out. What a way to end your year. And if you've been watching, thank you for sticking with me. I have a few people to say hello to. Samantha from Florida, Tracy from Alaska, and Damaris from Pennsylvania, here in Pennsylvania. Sorry. I'm looking at PA. That's what? Oh, the state I live in. So, yeah. My brain's a little fried at this point in the holiday season. Anyway, these people all introduce themselves in the welcome thread on the 90% Knitting board in Ravelry, so thank you for doing that. It's always lovely to hear from you. I have still not heard from the membership milestone drawing winner from the last episode. So if you are her, please get in touch with me. I have your prize for you. Okay, so it's the end of the year. I'm just going to say that. It's like everything is winding down, and I'm winding down. So if I seem a little this episode, it's because I'm done with 2015. Next week, Monday next week, then I'll be raring to go again for 2016. But you know what? We're just gonna float our way through this episode. I swear there's only coffee in this cup. But anyway, last time I recorded, I said I would probably record over the weekend, this past weekend, especially since I was planning to do an update this coming Wednesday in the shop. Well, obviously I did not record over this weekend. It just was not possible. And I have also decided to postpone, well, not really postpone. I'm canceling this last update that was supposed to be this coming Wednesday. That was going to be the last update of 2015. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the podcast in the shop news segment. But just to let you know, there will not be an update on Wednesday as I had originally planned. I do have something else going on. There will be a sale happening. There is a sale happening actually right now, which again, I will talk about more at the end of the podcast. But I will not be doing a regular shop update again until January. So that being said, I have a little less to talk to you about today than I probably would if I was doing a shop update, but there's still stuff to talk about, so let's talk about it. I have some finished objects to show you. First of them, I do not have to actually physically show you. I have a picture that I can show you, and this is something that I cast on and finished since the last time I recorded. It did end up being a Christmas gift. I had shown it to you, the pattern, a couple weeks ago, I think. It's the Naughty But Nice hat by Natalie Larson. It's a knitty pattern. I did end up knitting it out of some of my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Bonafide base, which is a DK weight base. It's a really pretty cabled hat. I knitted on US 6s and 7s, 6 for the brim and 7 for the rest of the hat. Since I was using DK weight and the pattern actually called for worsted, I went down needle sizes. Plus cabling, tends to pull in. So, but I'm a loose knitter, so it all worked out. The hat worked out great. I'll put a picture in here so you can see the hat. Okay, so that's the hat. The issue with that hat, the pattern was fine. I mean, there was a couple places things could have been maybe a little bit more clearly explained. Especially one part of the chart, but it was actually a fairly intuitive cable chart. I did not have issues with it, and once I got going, I understood how it was working. It got to the point where I really didn't have to look at the chart much. And therein lies our problem. I got past this one strange point in the chart, which is a little over halfway, I think, where you kind of lose stitches, but you don't really lose stitches. You just only knit them once at the beginning of a round, and then you don't do them again for the whole rest of the round, even though there's 5 repeats of that chart. It was odd. I thought I understood what was going on, and so I was rearranging my stitch markers that were denoting each cable section. It turned out I should not have done that, but you almost have to remove one of your stitch markers just because of the way things move. So anyway, I did that section of the chart, and then I stopped. Maybe if I would have kept going and done the next section right, or the next couple rows after that, I would have realized what I did, and it would have been easier to recover from. However, I didn't. I stopped at that point and sat it down, and I didn't work on it again until the next day. And then I picked it up feeling all confident that I knew what I was doing, and I was knitting, and I'm like, this is not right. I mean, you can tell when a cable is not happening correctly. You can look at it pretty much and it's wrong. But I kept going. Just a little bit. I didn't go like the whole way around that round. But then I got to, like, after I did it a couple times, I'm like, yeah, this isn't correct. But at that point, I had to rip that out, and then I had to rip out, the rest row that was between it to get back to the last cable row. And I wasn't really sure if I made the mistake in that cable row or the one before it, where you're initially losing or moving the stitches around. Well, I figured out what I did wrong, kind of. I was sort of just guessing, honestly. But I figured there was only so many things I could guess at to try to change. And I figured maybe I would hit and get lucky. But I was trying to do this without actually ripping everything out. So I was trying to drop stitches down and just rearrange. Oh my gosh. Ended up with a huge mess. I ended up ripping the whole entire cabled section out that I had back down to the ribbing, the brim, which was really the easiest thing to do. I mean, easiest in knitting it correctly, because I was going to spend way too much time trying to figure out what I did wrong otherwise. So I did that. I ripped it out, I re-knit it, and I got up to that point that I had been to, and that time around, then I realized what I had goofed up, and so it was easy to not do it again. So yay, I got past there. But again, then I got like a little too cocky, and I got to another place where I'm cabling, and it's like, this isn't right. And I was looking at what I was doing based on versus what was already on the hat, and I said, I think I skipped a cable row in this chart. I'm like, oh, and I did not want to rip out again, so I just tinked. I tinked back 2.5 rounds, and I finally figured out what I did wrong. There was a round where I did 2 totally different things in that round, neither of which were correct. So I went back to the beginning of that round, picked up, finished the cable chart without any problems after that, finished the hat, and it was fine. And it was a finished gift, so yay. That hat took me way, way longer than any hat should take, even a cable hat. So I'm just saying, I was a little frustrated, and part of the issue was probably that I was trying to get it done quickly because I really wanted to be able to give it as a gift on Christmas. I finished it Christmas Eve, just in time to wrap it and put it under the tree. So anyway, the hat was done. And the recipient liked it, so yay. The other item that I did finish, because once I finished that hat, I thought, I need to knit something else. I finished my pumpkin season shawl, which you may remember me casting on way back in September. And it's just sort of been languishing on the needles because I sort of lost interest in it. This is a shawl that I totally was knitting without a pattern, just winging it as I went along. I had, the orange is Plymouth Tweed. In the orange, the number is 5327. And then the red and the green is Queensland Kathmandu DK. The red is color number 434 and the green is 433. I knit the whole thing on US 8s. And I really just, like I said, I made it up as I went along. Each orange segment got longer or wider by 4 rows as I went. And each color segment with the red and the green also got wider. But I did not really do the same thing each time. It got wider till the very end because the red and the green was actually what I was running out of. I still have about 2.5, well, not quite 2.5 balls of the orange left. But I had very little green and a little bit more red left at the end. So I just, kind of finished it with what I had and called it done. There was a lot of stitches on the needle by the time I was finished. I didn't count, but there was probably, I'm going to say close to 300 by the time I was done. It's a nice shawl. It's definitely a nice size shawl. It'll be nice to wrap up in. It needs to be blocked. I still have some ends to weave in. I can't block it till Emma goes back to school because her room is my designated blocking room. But at least it's done. So it's another project off the needles for 2015. And I'm happy with that. So, yay. Yeah. The other thing I did spend some time working on, which originally was, I think I mentioned, it was going to be a gift, or it might be a gift. It is going to be a gift. I did not get it done in time for Christmas, was these modified vanilla bean socks. I can't remember if I had this first one, if I had the heel in the first one when you saw it last. I'm sorry I don't have it on a sock blocker. But I did put the afterthought heel into the first one. So that is finished. And I do have the second one started. It's actually, the cuff is done. This is just, it's a stitch holder that I'm basically just using to remind me that this is the bottom of the foot side. So since I've got the cuff done, I don't want to accidentally be doing the patterning on the bottom. So for right now, that's just reminding me not to do the slip stitch part on that side. Eventually, once I get down a few more color stripes, I will insert it into the center of this gold stripe because that's where I'll be putting my afterthought heel in. So I'll put it in there where I need to measure to know when to start doing my toe decreases. But for right now, it's just there as a reminder. So anyway, well, actually, the hat, the Naughty But Nice hat, and these socks are for the same person. My friend Bill, who I'm dating. I gave him the hat and I wrapped the one sock into it. I told him it's really not unusual in my life and in my world to like gift wrap things that are still on the needles and say, you'll get this eventually. But I did not put the one that was still on the needles in there. I said, there's a hat and here's a sock. You'll get the other sock when it's done. It's just really hard because, when you're knitting gifts, you really can't knit them in front of the person that they're for. And a lot of my knitting time is sort of in the evenings, and that tends to be when I see him. And so it was just really difficult to get the sock done. But at least he got a finished hat. So I figured that's something. Anyway, so hopefully this is my next goal, to finish the second sock, just to have these socks done. I've got too many socks on the needles right now. And just so you know, this is my bounce base, my Fiber Nymph Dye Works bounce base in the After the Harvest bright colorway. I did this in both a bright and a muted. This is the bright. And I'm using Emily O'Grady's vanilla bean recipe, just sort of as my guideline. I'm not doing it the way she has it written. I modified it that I'm only doing the slip stitch every 4 rows. So it just gives it some visual interest. And I like how it's turning out, and so did he, so yay. Yeah, so this is kind of the thing I want to focus on getting done at this point. I just need to get some things off the needles. That's like I talked last time about doing a Christmas Eve cast on of socks, which I did last year, and I really liked doing that. And I was fully intending to do it again this year. But the fact that I did not have these socks done, and I was still working on finishing up that hat on Christmas Eve, and I've got, I think, 3 other pair of socks on the needles. I have at least 2 other pair. I mean, like that I'm actively working on. I've got some design socks on the needles, but I'm not counting those. Like design socks that have been there forever. Yeah, I have, okay, the vanilla beans. I've got my barn dance sock, which I still haven't finished. And I've got, the bright sparkly rainbow socks with the sock blank, the Knitting Color sock blank. That was never meant to be like an active project, though. That was meant to be a pick it up and knit on it whenever I have time kind of project. So, or like at the movies or whatever. So I want to finish the vanilla beans. Then I may let myself cast on a new sock. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we'll see. I don't know. I have so many things I want to cast on. And I was telling Melissa from Meltran Designs the other day, I was texting her, I'm like, you know what? I am not interested in knitting anything that I've got on the needles right now. Do you ever get that way? You just get to that point where it's like everything on the needles is sort of a chore, or it's boring or whatever. And it's like, I wanted to knit on the socks, but I couldn't half the time. That's why I picked up that shawl. I ended up having 6 hours of car time unexpectedly a weekend or so ago. And it's like, that would have been the perfect time to have been knitting on that sock. And I couldn't because he was in the car with me. So it's like, okay, I could have finished the sock in 6 hours. Anyway, I worked on the shawl instead. But I've got all these things that I want to cast on, yet I've got things I probably should finish first. So I don't know. We'll see. I know there's really no rules. The knitting police are not going to come up and say, why are you casting something new on? You've got all these things to finish. Do those. Nobody's going to say that. And if they do, I'll just stick my tongue out at them. And I won't, but you know what I mean. I don't have those kind of rules. I'll cast on as many things as I want that make me happy. The only problem is whenever I end up casting on a whole bunch of things like that, on a whim, like half the time I end up ripping half of them out because it's like, it's something about just casting them on that makes me happy. I don't ever actually finish them, and that's okay. I lose interest really fast. I rip them out and use the yarn for something else, but it's just that casting on. Sometimes that's all you need, is just the act of casting something new on and playing with some new yarn. Whether you see it through to completion or not isn't always the issue. So anyway, the only other thing I did knit on, I think I knit on this since the last time you saw it, I can't remember when it was the last time I showed it to you, is my accidental cast on hat, which is a sock head hat. I keep forgetting to put a marker in to show you where it was, but it's currently about 6.5 inches from the ribbing. It needs to go to 9 inches from the ribbing according to the pattern before you start doing the decreases. So I really don't have that much farther to go on that. And this may also be something I just kind of bang out at this point to finish it up. You know, this is also my bounce, my Fiber Dye Works bounce base in a colorway that was not really a colorway when I dyed it. It was a special request kind of colorway. It has since morphed into my Davy Jones, no, my Bring Me That Horizon colorway, which is very similar to my Davy Jones Locker colorway. At any rate, yeah, so it's seen progress. I just don't remember where it was the last time you saw it. So okay, that's it. That's all that I have worked on, which actually that's a lot considering the fact I haven't had a whole lot of knitting time. On deck, you know, like I said, I have a lot of things that I would like to start. I have not put any more work into my antler cardigan. That was one of those things like I couldn't wait to start it, and I started it, and I have the sleeves on the needles, but I just need to, the sleeves are taking thought because I'm modifying how the increases are going in the sleeves. So I really need just blocks of time that I can work on it and think about it, and I have not had those kinds of blocks of time. So that's part of the problem with that. At any rate, since I didn't do a Christmas Eve cast on for a new pair of socks, I may cast on a new pair of socks for New Year's Eve. Or maybe I'll cast on a hat, because heaven knows I've got a bunch of hats I want to start working on. I really want to do a Color Tracks hat. I have the yarn set aside to do it. So maybe that will be my New Year's Eve cast on. I just don't know yet. Who knows? Yeah. We'll see. I'm just not committing myself to anything right now, knitting-wise. I get done what I get done. Spinning. I finished the gray Shetland. I showed you the first half the last time, and at this point, I'm assuming this was probably the first half because my first half seems to be bigger or fuller on the bobbin than my second halves have been. But this is the gray, so it is done. That leaves the black, which I have not yet spun at all. I ran out of time to spin. So I don't know if I will get it done before the end of December, which was my goal because it was part of the Natural Colors Spin Along. It was what I was doing for the Natural Colors Spin Along. But since I don't get prizes anyway, it really doesn't matter. Although I've done more than enough to qualify because you had to do 4 ounces. So anyway, I may work on some spinning later today just to get that. I'd like to get the black done. just to have it all. And then I can start plying whenever I have a chance. Anyway, so let me, blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of doing things out of order from my show notes, which is why I'm discombobulated. But since I'm talking about the spin along, let me talk about that a little bit more. The Natural Colors Spin Along ends on Thursday this week. That's the last day to do your spinning and post your, it just has to be singles. It does not have to be plied, but at least 4 ounces of a natural color undyed fiber. All used for one project, per project, I guess. You know what? Read the things. If you have questions, ask me. I am making all of the alongs next year way easier rule-wise. I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to do it to me. Anyway, the guidelines are in the thread on the Ravelry board in the 90% knitting group. If you have questions, PM me. Ask on the chatter thread. Don't ask in the non-chatter thread, the finished object thread, if you have any questions about what qualifies, what doesn't. But anyway, you have until Thursday, December 31st, the end of the day, your time, to post your finished objects to qualify for a prize. I've shown you all the prizes or told you about them. There is the $25 gift certificate to Dyed in the Wool from Benita. There's 2 ounces of really pretty mohair that was donated by Christine, who is one of our viewers, from one of her pretty little sheep, or goats, sorry. Mohair comes from goats, Lisa. And then the fiber sampler, which I showed you all of the fibers that I'm going to have in that last time. So those are the 3 prizes. I will do the prize drawings the first podcast of the new year. So, but I will close the thread as soon as possible after the 31st. I'm not going to say, I probably will be up till midnight on the 31st, but I doubt that I'm going to run right in here, excuse me, and close that because, like I said, it's midnight your time, so I'm not staying up until everybody in all the time zones hits midnight. Well, 11:59 p.m. So I'll close it sometime on the 1st probably. Anyway, yeah, so I hope you guys have enjoyed the spin along. I've really enjoyed seeing the pictures of everything that you've been spinning. You guys have been doing some awesome work, and I love it. I love seeing all the different Shetland sets that I put out there, the different ways people have spun those up. Oh, it's so funny. I found an extra bag that had little bumps of my Shetland colors in them. I forgot that I had taken them and just put like, probably ½ an ounce of all 5 colors in a bag for when I was teaching that class at Indie Knit and Spin about conservation breeds. And I was going to just add those in with my regular fiber that I was spinning, and I forgot in a couple of the colors. So I've got a couple of extra little bips and bops of Shetland that did not get spun regularly. I don't know what I'll do with them. I might play with them at some point and do something else. I don't know. Anyway, I've had a lot of fun spinning up this natural stuff. I hope you have too, the natural colored fiber. And so that kind of takes us into what is coming next, which I've told you. There's going to be a hand spun. I was going to call it a knit along, but I'm not. I'm just going to call it a hand spun along because it can be knitting, it can be crochet, it can be weaving, whatever you want to do, as long as it's done with hand spun yarn. Now, this does not have to be hand spun that you spun. If you're not a spinner and you want to buy some hand spun from somebody else, or if you have a benevolent hand spinner in your life who wants to share their hand spun yarn with you, fabulous. That's fine. It does not have to be your own personal hand spun. If it is your own hand spun, great, because I love knitting with my hand spun. It always feels very satisfying to do that. Anyway, that's what the next along is going to be. So the first along of 2016. I've decided it's going to start on January 15th, though. I'm not starting it right at the beginning of January. We need a little bit of a gap between the end of the spin along and the beginning of this other along, the hand spun along. So January 15th, it'll run January 15th through February 29th. Next year's a leap year, so you get that extra day. Now, the way we're going to do this, and this is pretty much, I think, the way I'm going to run all of my alongs from now on, mainly because I really want the knit-alongs or spin-alongs or whatever alongs to be something that people are participating in for the fun, for the crafting, for the experience, not prize driven. I just don't want it to be like that's the main reason. There will be prizes. I like giving away prizes, but I don't want that to be like the major impetus for taking part in an along. So the way I'm going to do this, and I think this is probably how I'll end up doing this from now on, although I reserve the right to change that depending on the nature of the along, is what you're going to do is you're going to create a post in the finished object thread that I will open on the 15th of January. You'll create one post, and then any pictures of any qualifying finished objects you'll just put right in that same post. You'll go back to that same post, edit it, add the next picture, tell us what it is. So everybody who's participating will have one post in the finished object thread. There will be no extra points if you have 10 finished objects versus one finished object. As long as you've finished something that qualifies, that enters you for a prize. If you don't feel like that's fair because you have knit using like 10 ounces of hand spun versus the person who used a half an ounce of hand spun, I'm sorry. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to put huge parameters on things anymore like that. I just want it to be fun. So you can choose to participate or not. It's totally up to you. I hope you will. I hope you'll join in the spirit of just having fun with it. But yeah, I'm not putting any parameters on like how many yards you have to use, how much, ounces or whatever. What kind of projects. It can be little itty bitty project. I think the only parameter I will put on it is the entire project needs to be made out of hand spun. Okay, like if you're doing a colorwork hat and you just use a little bit of hand spun for one of the colorwork motifs, that won't count. The whole project does have to be made with hand spun, so that will be the one parameter. But otherwise, oh, it also has to be started and finished within that January 15th through February 29th time frame. But that's it. Those are the only two major must adhere to rules. So anyway, yeah, I will open a thread for that, and I will start an explanation thread, the guidelines thread, after I close the spin along thread. I just don't want to have too many threads going at the same time for different alongs, so I'll probably wait to put that up. I don't know, maybe I'll put it up earlier, but the finished object thread I definitely won't put up until the spin along or the hand spun along begins, and I will obviously have recorded at least once, perhaps twice prior to that anyway, so you'll hear more about it. And if you're somebody who wants to donate a prize for that, please get in touch with me, PM me. I'd be happy to have prizes. That can be yarn, it could be fiber, it could be stitch markers, it could be a pattern, whatever. I'm always happy to have people donate prizes. I'll donate. Obviously, I'm going to be donating at least one prize for the hand spun along. So anyway, that's what's coming up in January. Okay, now going back up to another part of my show notes. New stuff knitting wise, anyway, because it was just Christmas, so yeah, of course I have some new stuff. But knitting wise, I did get that West Yorkshire Spinners yarn in the mail prior to Christmas. I could have actually cast on a pair of socks with that. This is their signature 4-ply, and this one is part of their bird series. This is the pheasant colorway. I love this color, and I really, really would like to make my socks out of this. However, someone in my life has already claimed this, and I will probably be kind and just knit something for them at some point out of this colorway. But I still have the bullfinch color, which I also like. It's the black and gray and red one. That'll probably be mine. And then this one was Hollyberry, which is not a bird, but it is a very pretty Christmassy colorway, or winter colorway, really. I don't know if I feel like doing a winter color at this point in time, though. I kind of feel like doing something a little bit different. Oh, there. That's a nice focus. So anyway, those came, and I told you I did not order them from where I would normally order this because they didn't have both of these. I ordered them instead from Maple Tree Yarns, which is a shop in the UK. I have yet to find West Yorkshire spinners in the United States anywhere. So Maple Tree Yarns, I believe it was mapletreeyarns.co.uk. Let me look. Yeah, mapletreeyarns.co.uk. Is the website. So if you want to check them out. The other place that I have ordered this before is Brit Yarn, which is where I would have ordered it had I been able to get both of those colorways, but I couldn't. So anyway, yeah, that's my only new yarny goodness, but I think I've probably bought some patterns recently, but I'll show you those as I knit them. What else? Oh, as we're wrapping up the year, I don't know if you guys use this or not. There's a website called, let me get the name right, Knitmeter. Have you ever used that? It's knitmeter.com. And you have to create an account, but once you have your account, you can log in, and it will let you keep track of the yardage you use for your projects. And you can do it for knitting, crochet, spinning, or weaving, which is really cool. I've only ever done it for knitting. I may have to go back. I've kept track of all my spinning this year, so I may have to go back in and do one for spinning too. But anyway, it creates this little thing. It keeps track of how much you've knit, how much yardage you've used in the year. And then there's like a little widget that you can embed, which I usually embed mine in my Ravelry, my profile page on Ravelry. And I have done this every year now since 2011. So this is my 5th year of having one. And this year I knit a record number of yards. Up till this point, 2011, the first year I did it, was my record year. I had knit 14,183 yards that year. And then it was down in 2012 to 11,127 yards. 2013 was an incredibly low yardage year with only 5,659 yards. 2014 picked up a little, up to 9,117 yards. This year, I knit 16,866 yards. That's finished project yardage. Okay, so the stuff that's all still on the needles isn't in that number. But finished yardage, that's crazy. That's so much yardage. Now, keep in mind, remember my Afghan, my never-ending Afghan of Doom, I finished that at the beginning of this year, so all that yardage counted into that, and that was like 3,000 or something yards. I can't remember. That was a crazy number of yards. And then I had Emma's Afghan. I mean, I had some big projects this year, but still, that was almost 17,000 yards. If I finish those socks, I will cross 17,000 yards. Oh, that's amazing. Anyway, I don't know why that kind of thing like excites me, but I love being able to track that. I just do. It's me. I'm silly, I guess, but it's fun. So, I don't know. How did you guys do? Is there a way that you keep track of your knitting progress? I used to kind of keep track of like what new techniques I learned during the year, or like if I knit any new types of patterns that I'd never done before. I don't keep track of that stuff anymore quite as much, just because that happened more as a newer knitter. I mean, not that I know every technique under the sun. There's still lots of techniques out there I've not used. But I also don't have the drive that I used to have to try out a lot of new techniques because I'm a little too busy to focus on that as much. So I'm just happy with getting finished objects done. Really. So I'm just wondering, curious if you guys, have ways that you keep track of your knitting progress throughout the year, or, do you keep track from year to year? I'd love to know. Maybe I'll start a thread about that in the 90% knitting group, and you guys can chime in if you'd like. So anyway, I think that is everything from the 90% knitting section. The 10% part, I had a lovely Christmas. It was busy. It's still busy. I was really hoping to just have some downtime over these holidays, like chunks of time where I could just sit in my living room and knit or spin. And so far, I have really not had that. It's fine. I'm not complaining because the things I have been doing have been very enjoyable. I'm still working a little bit, but I'm not working nearly enough to, like, not nearly enough, but I'm not doing like my normal level of dying and everything right now because I decided I just need a break. I need a break. It's been a year. Um, if you guys have watched the podcast, you know it's been a year. It's been several years here in a row, and I feel like I've reached my limit on crazy. And, this year was this year of either really hard, emotional, crappy stuff or really excellent, wonderful emotion stuff. There was like no middle ground this year. It was either down here or up here. You can only do that so long. So I'm really, really hoping for 2016 to be a little bit more moderated. That would be awesome. Or just stay up here at a happy level. It doesn't have to be way up here, but like the happy level without all the stuff. Fingers crossed on that for all of us. But anyway, yeah, I've still got stuff going on. Emma's still home for another week, and just it's fun. I'm doing friend stuff and family stuff, and just having a nice time. No real big plans for New Year's. It's going to be quiet. We just usually stay home, and I make snacky foods, and we play games and stuff like that. I think that's what we're going to do again this year. What else? Oh, I got new goodies. Do you want to see some of my new goodies? I'm not going to show you everything. I mean, it's not like you'd be interested in them, but I already showed you my cool mug. I got some gift cards to Starbucks too, which is also cool. Coffee is good. Okay, well, this first thing I'm going to show you, it's funny because this wasn't something I got. It's something that I gave someone, and this was from my son. Okay, so Christopher, my younger son, he's 21. He's always really good about giving me a Christmas list because his birthday and Christmas are both in December. So I always tell him, give me a list so I know what you want, because he's kind of hard to just buy for, especially clothes. He's really picky. So anyway, he always gives me a list. Well, usually at least 75% of his list, it's stuff that has to do with Xbox, which I don't know anything about that stuff. So he has to give me the list. Well, if you know anybody who's into Xbox kind of stuff, that stuff can be kind of pricey, right? So he had like a game on there and I think some other things. I don't remember now. But one of the things he had on there was he wanted a pair of Turtle Beach wireless headphones, the headset that they use, but wireless. Well, I looked at that online and it was crazy expensive. I'm like, there's no way. If I gave him that, that would be like the only thing I would be giving you for Christmas. So I decided I'd just give him some cash to put towards that. But me being me, I decided to get creative in the way I gave him the cash. So he wanted a wireless Turtle Beach headset. I created a wireless Turtle Beach instead. So, I used to scrapbook a lot. So there's a reason I have my scrapbooking stuff still. So this is completely wireless. There are no wires on this diorama. But it's a beach for turtles. And if you look over here, I borrowed the Verizon emblem. So this beach is sponsored by Verizon Wireless. Verizon Wireless Beach for turtles. And then also, me being me, there had to be a shark trying to eat one of the turtles. And then this turtle's like, Fred, watch out. You're going to get eaten. And then there's this turtle laying on his blanket, which I intended for him to just be, laying on his back, sunning himself. And everybody who's looked at this is like, why is that turtle dead? It's like, he's not dead. He's just getting a tan. But yeah. So anyway, then we've got little seagulls. I was very happy with my seagulls. I just kind of did those. So anyway, wireless Turtle Beach. So I wrapped this, I put it in a gift bag, and as he's opening, I'm like, you have to be really careful with that because it's going to fall apart. And he opened it, he laughed, he loved it. And so I appreciate the fact that my kids appreciate homemade gifts, even if they're something weird. I did finish Emma's pillow. Did I show it to you? I feel like I showed it to you last time, or at least the pillows. And she really liked her pillow too. But I was very proud of myself with the wireless Turtle Beach. Because I'm just a little warped that way. Anyway, other things I got books, which are fun. I love to read and I love the English language, so I got a couple of books. I've told you I've been listening to The History of Nearly Everything or whatever by Bill Bryson. And so I also received The Mother Tongue, English and How It Got That Way by Bill Bryson. And Our Language by Simeon Potter, which I believe is actually out of print. So this is a very cool book to have received. So I can't wait to read those because it's just, they appeal to my geeky side. I also, Emma got me this, Thug Kitchen, Eat Like You Give a Beat, the official cookbook. Okay, I remember when this book came out and I saw it and I thought it was really funny and I kind of looked at it, but then I never bought it. I don't buy a lot of cookbooks anymore, but I didn't really remember a lot about it either. So then she gave it to me. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. You know, I remember when that came out and, you know, we were saying how the pictures look really tasty and everything. So then later in the day on Christmas, I was looking at this book closer and realized it's a vegan cookbook. She didn't realize it was a vegan cookbook when she bought it for me, which it's fine. I have nothing against vegan recipes. I don't do tofu, I have to say. I don't cook with it. Sometimes I'll order it if it's out, but I will probably be the only person taking a vegan cookbook and adding meat to it. I know, I'm sorry. If you're vegan, I hope that's not too offensive. I'm not trying to offend you, but that's probably what's going to happen. Or at least, you know, animal related products like butter and cheese, stuff like that. But anyway, it's a very cool cookbook. Isn't it usually the other way around? Vegans are trying to take regular recipes and make them non-animal? I don't know. I got a sheep. Okay, so this sheep is actually a blanket, like inside. See, he velcros. I'll take him apart and show you. Obviously, this was meant to be a baby gift for someone, but someone in my life knows me well enough to know I like sheep. So I got this fluffy sheep. So anyway, that's just sort of like a holder. So anyway, this outer part comes off. So you end up with what is a blanket all rolled up as the inside body part of the sheep. And then you have this soft kind of mat part, you know, that you can just lay on or whatever. But you know what else this is good for? It's great to put on your cat, which is what I did this morning. I got Babette and I wrapped the sheep around her. I could only get the front one closed. So it was like a cat in sheep's clothing, and she really was not very happy about it, but I thought it was funny. It wasn't hurting her or anything, but she was less than pleased to be dressed as a sheep. But you know, you do what you think of when you think of them sometimes. Oh, really cool gift. Okay, so a while back, Bill and I were having this discussion. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I just said, you know, I really wish I understood the way engines work better. Like, I have this very vague notion of how a motor works, but not really. You know, I made this offhand comment about, you know, I really wish I had a better idea of how an engine works. He bought me an engine to build. Okay, so this is what we did yesterday. It's a model, okay, but it's a see-through model. And I remember actually my ex doing this with one of our kids when they were younger. He had bought one of these too. It wasn't the same one, but it's just really cool because you build it like you're actually putting together the pistons and connecting rods and the camshaft and the cams, and you actually have to time it, like, you know, adjust the timing belt, and you know, there's little spark plugs. It's so neat, and it actually works. It runs off of batteries, and I'm going to push the button so that you can see it. It's going to run for about 30 seconds, and I apologize if it is too loud, so I'm just giving you a warning now. But I want you to see this just because it's kind of fun. I don't know how well you'll be able to see like all of the things moving, but okay, here we go. Oh, there, you can see the pistons going up and down. Okay, it'll stop in a second. The red flashing lights are little light bulbs that are they simulate the spark plugs. So the order that they light up is the order of the spark plug sequence firing. I still don't know all the terminology right. But it was really interesting, and it comes with this booklet that like explains a whole lot in it about engines and how they work. It was just a really cool learning experience. Obviously, I'm not ready to go tear down the engine in my car and rebuild it. Thank goodness I don't need to. But it was just so cool. And I love it when people think of really unique gifts like that. Plus, he did it with me, so he was telling me because he knows a whole lot about this stuff. So it was a great learning experience, and it was just such a fun gift. I love toys. I don't care. You're never too old for some toys. So anyway, I guess that's it for Christmas. Like I said, no huge plans for New Year's. I'm not going to be recording again until after New Year's, so this is it. Of course, there's only like 3 more days left in the year, so why would I record again? Let's move on to shop news. I don't have a whole lot, but just to let you know, again, there will not be a shop update on Wednesday as I had previously announced. I don't know what I was thinking, that I was going to have time between the last update and the 30th to actually get enough dyeing done to do an update. I have no idea what I was thinking because I don't even have my helpers here really between then. There was one day that they were here, so that's not happening. Instead, there will be the first regular update of 2016 will be on Friday, January 8th, and that will be at noon Eastern time. So the stuff that I did have that I was going to put up this week, I'll just hang on to, and I'll add that to everything that will be going up on the 8th. So, and I'll obviously be podcasting again prior to that, so you'll get to see what's going up. The January minis of the month will be going up, but not until Monday, January 4th at 9 a.m. I didn't want to do them on the 1st because that's the first of the year, and you know, too much going on. So that is also postponed, but just by 4 days. So that will be happening. However, since I'm not doing the update, what I usually do at the end of the year is a clearance sale. I've done that the past several years. And it was funny because I actually thought, well, if I'm doing an update on the 30th, I wouldn't be doing a sale at the same time, because I don't usually do sales when I have new stuff going into the shop. So I kind of was kicking myself anyway for not scheduling that better. But then since I decided to not do the update, it actually opened up the chance to be able to do the end of the year sale, which benefits you guys. So I actually have the sale set up now. It's active now, but I haven't advertised it anywhere yet. And I'm not going to actively advertise it anywhere until after this episode is up. And I will probably wait till either later tonight or first thing tomorrow to post about the sale on social media. So that way, if you're watching the podcast, you're actually getting the news first. The only place it's actually written is at the very top of the shop page. I do have it there just because I always feel bad if I know there's a sale going on that I could have told people about and then they order stuff. So I did put that there just for people who are, you know, off chance going to the shop to buy something. They'll at least see it there. But otherwise, you guys are the first to hear about it, and then I will post on social media probably tomorrow morning about it after that. But it's running from today through Sunday, January 3rd, so this whole week, Monday through Sunday, and it's 20% off anything that's in stock in the shop. Now, as always, well, not as always, sometimes I do it differently, but it won't, nothing that's custom ordered, like Knitter's Choice stuff, and gift certificates, those do not qualify for the discount code, the coupon code. But anything that's physically in stock in the shop and you want to buy it, you can use the code. And since we're saying goodbye to 2015, my code is BUHBYE20 because it's 20% off. So it's BUHBYE20. Okay, that's the code. I will try to put it at the bottom of the screen here. I don't know if I'll remember or be able to. I'll put it in the show notes. It's on, like I said, it's on the top of the shop page. I will put it in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group on Ravelry. I will put it on the Facebook page. I'll put it all those places tomorrow morning. So anyway, again, 20% off anything that's in the shop. And there's still a good bit left from the last update that I did back on the 18th. There's some of the the color block sock sets. There's some of the mega gradients. There are mini sets, the Seven Deadly Sins minis sets. There's a whole lot of semi-solids. There's still some fiber that's been in the shop since the last show. Actually, everything that you see behind me here, all of this stuff in these bins, that's up for grabs and 20% off. So that is my year-end, basically, thank you for your patronage to my shop. Thank you for following my business and being an active and encouraging part of that. I say this every year and I do mean it. You know, I can't do this if I don't have customers. And the fact that I have so many customers who are so encouraging and really seem to love what I do, it helps me love what I do even more. And it helps me pay my bills because this is the way I sustain myself. I don't have another job. I am fully self-employed by Fiber Nymph Dye Works, my business. So, myself and my cat and my dog, thank you for helping to keep a roof over our heads and food in our tummies. But anyway, I just, you know, I like being able to offer you the discount at the end of the year. And I also like to be able to clear stuff out as much as possible at the end of the year because I've got all kinds of new stuff that I want to offer you guys starting next year. I've said this before. I've got so many ideas for next year. And I'm working on scheduling that stuff so that I can do some really cool things, and I hope you'll love them. So anyway, okay, that's everything. Oh, no, it's not. Just one more time, I wanted to also mention that the Fiber Nymph Dye Works fourth quarter finished object drawing, the last day to enter that will be the 31st of December as well. So post your finished object picture. It doesn't matter when it was started, as long as the project was finished in the fourth quarter of 2015, it qualifies, and that's anything knit with Fiber Nymph Dye Works yarn or spun with Fiber Nymph Dye Works fiber or spun with my fiber and then knit with it. Either way, it qualifies you for an entry, and that will still remain one entry per project. That isn't going to be like what I said before. So anyway, head over there. If you've got anything, please enter, and I will do that drawing the first podcast of 2016. So, and I'll start a new one for the first quarter of 2016. So we'll keep that going because everybody seems to like that too. Alrighty, that's everything. I hope you have a wonderful New Year's celebration. Please be safe. And if you're still celebrating other holidays right now, or if you're one of those lucky people who have a birthday at this time of year, don't you always feel like you kind of get shorted a little bit? I know. Well, hopefully you'll get something special at this time of year. But anyway, please enjoy the rest of 2015, and I will look forward to starting 2016 with you in a week or so. So take care. Bye.